Welcome back. You're still with us on Startup Street. Our assets under management has grown 2 to 3 times on a yearly basis. That's the word coming in from Shashank Rishyasringa, the co-founder at Axio Finance. My colleague Ritu Singh caught up with Shashank and Sandeep Jethwani, the co-founder at Dezerv, on the sidelines of the Global Fintech Summit last week. Sandeep Jethwani also shared his growth trajectory. Take a look.
How are your how's your AUM growing? Could you give us some sense of where you're at currently? What are your targets in the near term? To what extent do you think you can grow?
I think we've seen tremendous growth in a couple of areas. One is in customers. So we're now approaching a milestone of nearly 10 million customers from a credit perspective, which is exciting because of the impact that we're having in the lives of those customers. Second is from an AUM and a dispersal perspective. We're now approaching the other milestone of about 2,000 crores in AUM and about 600 crores a monthly disbursal.
So where's your AUM currently and what will it be, say, in the next year or so?
So our AUM has been consistently growing about 2 to 3x year on year. We expect that growth rate to continue. But I think more importantly than these metrics, we're a lending business. And so the metric that really matters is risk.
Yes.
And I think if you ask me what metric we watch the closest and where we believe that we've achieved the most is actually our NPAs, which today stand at about 1.5% to 2%.
How are you ensuring that as you underwrite this new to credit customers, you're able to maintain that sort of tight hold on, return on your capital as well?
Yeah. So we've been through a cycle. We've been around. You asked me this question earlier. We've been
I'm
around
talking
for
about the
nearly 10
fintech
years,
industry. Yeah.
It's a fair question, and I think the most obvious explanation to this is, like in most things in India, the addressable market is more complex than it seems. And I think the situation where we see ourselves today in credit is we have two very distinct ecosystems that have emerged. We have a prime ecosystem of the top 30 million customers in the country. Everyone is running after these customers to give them credit cards, personal loans. You probably receive 5 calls a day, right? There is definitely a risk of micro-saturation in this segment, and I think we need to be watchful. Equally, there is another segment of about 150 to 200 million customers who are completely underserved, right? And underlevered. These are the customers that are hard to underwrite, but when you do, tend to actually deliver far better risk-adjusted returns simply because they are newer to credit, they have a big stake in building their own credit histories going from 0 to 1, right? And I think for us as an ecosystem, we need to be very clear about which customer we're going to go after.
What do you make of the recent guidelines, whether it is in digital lending or co-lending, where the first loss default guarantee has been capped at 5%, which was far higher before? How has life changed since?
A couple of points to make. I think firstly, we've been a regulated NBFC since day one. So I think all models that have been following regulation continue unaffected. Secondly, I think the RBI has come in mainly from a clarificatory perspective on roles and responsibilities and guardrails for customer protection. We see this as positive. While there may be some short-term disruptions, I think most responsible players have adapted to the regulations, and going forward, this will actually lead to a more investable, more sustainable industry.
Well, speaking of a more sustainable growth, Sandeep, let's just get to Dezerv very quickly. You crossed that 1,000 AUM mark, and now you were telling us you're almost at 3,500 crores. What is the kind of growth trajectory you're looking at in the coming years? How soon, before you cross your former employer?
I think the pie is growing, Ritu, so it's not about crossing. The entire industry will grow together. We are expecting almost doubling of AUM in the next year, and then every year 3 to 4x after that. We are actually confident that the number of users that we are servicing today, which is in the range of around 6,000 users, that itself will
6,000 users on a monthly?
6,000 users who've invested with Dezerv.
So far,
right?
Okay.
And for which we manage this 3,500 crores. In fact, to Shashank's point also, regulators being a big enabler in our business. The regulator understands that they have to encourage competition, bring new players and offer new alternatives to the user in terms of what they can invest in.
So a quick question then finally on technology. Generative AI has been the buzzword. I don't know if it continues to be even today, but how is that disrupting the wealth tech segment, and how is that changing the way you look at business now?
So it's a great question, Ritu, and honestly, generative AI does have a place. In our case, we believe that in customer service, or our reaction times to customers can significantly improve if we use AI at our end.
Okay.
Can the core investing bit also be automated? I don't think so just yet. There is a lot of human intervention. India is still developing. New instruments are being created as we speak. So a lot of human insight does need to go in on that part of the business.
Well, on that note, unfortunately, we've run out of time, but Sashank and Sandeep, it was a pleasure speaking to both of you. Thank you.
With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Startup Street. It's a goodbye from Arundhati and me, Shruti. Stay tuned to CNBC-TV18 for more news and updates.